Hi and welcome to the second tutorial on creating a zombie mob pit in Cubiverse. To begin, I'm going to load the first part of the world, and in this world we'd create a zombie pit, we spawn some zombies and a weapon. And in this part 2 of the tutorial, I'm going to add in some lava that you'll die when you touch. I'm going to do some terraforming the land, and then add some atmospheric lights to add a level of depth to the level. So first off, I'm going to log in. Because I am the owner of this level, I'll immediately be able to edit it. And just to refresh your memory, we have a very simple pit with a few zombies in it that will spawn momentarily. And we have a weapon also spawned. So let's first of all press I and drag the hammer and equip it. And you can see that we have a number of entities already in the level, our spawn points for our mobs or zombies, and also our generic entity which spawns the weapon. So first off, I'm going to select this and use one of the new features and label this as an initializer. There we have it. The first thing then is to do a little terraforming to change some of the world. And what I'm simply going to do is move down and use the voxel tool, the delete one, and simply remove some of the bricks. As you'll notice, when I'm moving or changing any of the world, the shading is recomputed after I stop making any changes, which I'll just do now. And again, I'm going to do the back walls and just make a few changes here. Just add a bit of relief to the walls. Again, in the corner here. Okay. Oh, I seem to have created a hole outside. So instead, to fill that in, I'm going to use the add button and scroll, using the mouse wheel, scroll around till I find the rock and simply click to add. To add further detail, I'm going to use the change tool and modify the texture used on some of these cubes. So using the mouse wheel, scrolling up, I can change the texture. In this case, I'm going to select the coal ore and simply click to change some of the items to coal. And I'm going to do the same for iron and add a few iron items. I'm going to turn around and perform the same operation on the firewalls. Okay, so if we move up, we can see if we run the level that we've immediately created a much more kind of atmospheric level. It looks much nicer, there's much more going on, and our zombies are at the bottom of the pit. Let's go back into edit mode, move back up, and for simplicity here I'm going to remove some of these spawn points for mobs, and that's just to allow us to get down there without too many zombies attacking us. Using the voxel change tool, I'm going to change the floor to represent lava, and I can do this by simply single clicking and making a mistake, or I can use the increase or decrease tool. In this case I can increase the size or decrease the size of the selection tool. I can also use the keys 5 and 6 as shown under each of the icons. In this case 5 increases the size where 6 reduces it. I'm simply going to use that to paint a larger range of tiles. Very quickly I'm going to fix up the accidental tile, change it back to color. That's it. So now we have our lava. But in Cubiverse, nothing has any default actions. You have to script it yourself. This allows you to create very advanced worlds with lots of different types of interaction and gameplay. So in other words, to allow this lava to actually hurt a player, I need to create a trigger zone that will execute a bit of JavaScript whenever anything touches it. So I'm going to drop down a trigger zone and increase its size. I do that by first of all selecting it using the move tool,
And then I can increase its size simply by clicking these icons. And as you can see, we can go in various different directions to increase the size of the cube. So I simply increase it until I'm satisfied that it's large enough. I'm going to simply go down and have a look to ensure that the trigger zone is actually on top of the lava, and as you can see, the lava is beneath it. That allows me to be sure that whenever the player touches the lava, that it will actually cause damage. Next, we're going to add some scripting to this. If we edit the script attached to this trigger zone, you will notice that it simply has an object defined along with an instance of the object, and an API to Cubiverse to tell it to register with the trigger zone this object. Using the API, I can select the trigger zone and notice that it has a onPlayer entered event. I can copy this little bit of code and insert that into my world. In this case, I will keep the order correct and ensure that it's added to my trigger zone 1. Oh. Effectively, what we are doing here is saying that whenever a player enters the trigger zone, this message will be printed out in the console. I'm going to save that and then run the world. As you will notice, I made a slight mistake in the scripting, so I'm going to edit the script again and ensure that I have correctly entered the information. As you can see, our mob is already spawned, but whenever I drop into this, you will notice that along the bottom there is a message printed out saying Killer Jim has entered the trigger or the zone. This is triggered every time I enter the zone. In this case, I'm jumping up and down, in and out of the zone. And let me go back then and change the actual script to perform the actual death of the player. So simply edit again. I will name this to be Lava Death Zone. In this case, what I will then do is actually use part of the player object API. In this case, if I click the API, I can see that the player has a damage method. This applies a certain amount of damage to the player. In this case, I'm simply going to apply the maximum damage it would take to kill the player. So we save this and begin execution again. When the player now drops into the lava, they will be instantly killed by touching the lava. Let's now look at adding some atmospheric lights to the level. In this case, we need to add some JavaScript, so we will do that inside what we call a generic entity. So we have selected our entity add tool, and we're going to use the mouse wheel to move around to select a generic script entity. We'll place it here and then edit the script in it. As you can see, there is nothing currently there. I'm going to change this to be called lights, and I'm going to go and use the API again to create a light. Using the world object, we will create a light, and we can create various different types of light and with various different parameters. This example, I'm simply going to copy the example code and simply paste it in here. This is going to create a point light at these world positions with a red hue with a intensity of 3 and a distance of 10. Now, the only way to accurately find out these positions at present is to move your entity to the correct location for the light. In this case, I'm going to place it exactly in the center, and I'm going to then edit the script and note its position along the bottom here and use that for input into the actual X, Y, Z positions of the light. We don't want to place a light directly on the floor, so we're going to raise it up a few points in height, and this should place it roughly above the center of the floor.
Let's now go ahead and run this level, and we should see the glow, the red glow of lava presenting itself from a point within the level. To increase the atmosphere within the game, we're going to now modify the time of day. We'll do that inside our initializer, and this is simply done by using the environment object. And if we go to the API, we can see that the environment has a set time of day function as such, in which you pass the number of seconds since midnight. In this example, I'm going to pick the time of 5 AM. So it should be a little bit darker, and it should enhance the red glow. So as you can see now, we have now got a nice zombie pit with some lava with a nice lighting effect to go with it. We can obviously equip the gun and die by falling straight into the lava. So let's make it slightly easier for our player, and let's perform a little bit more terraforming. If we move out and use the negative or the delete tool, we can create a little bit of a walkway that will allow us to place the player spawn point in such a location that will prevent them from leaving the area in question. So we don't want them to jump outside this main area. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. And let's add a bit more detail by adding some additional cubes for more effect. In this instance, I'm going to go and select, for example, wooden planks. I'm going to simply build up some of the wooden planks here. This acts as a box to prevent our player from jumping out of the level. For further clarity, I'm going to move our initializer out of the way, and I'm going to change the player spawn point, which as you can see is currently up there. Now I'm going to hold down the left mouse button and then move the display to position the spawn point just in the middle here. It is handy to spawn the player maybe slightly higher, so we can use a special tool that allows us to change between snapping and free look or free movement. So as you can see, the cube now is freely positioned, and I'm just going to move it down using the mouse wheel. And there we have the player spawning right in the middle. So let's give this a try. And there we go, our player is spawning in the new spawn point. We can jump up and collect the weapon, and as you can see, our mob or zombie will actually spawn down below. So I can be kind of cutting and jump between the walls until I eventually fall. Brings me to the end of this part of the tutorial. In the next tutorial I will go into even more details and include moving cubes and more terraforming to create a much more detailed level. Thank you very much for listening and spending time seeing how this is done. Please visit Cubiverse.net, please talk to me in the forums, or visit me on IRC in the channel Cubiverse on Freenode. Thank you.